Can you remember the times when arcades existed? Clicking of the buttons, the 8-bit sounds, and the smell of that weird cleaning spray? I can't. I was born in the 2000s. The closest I ever came to that experience was by playing pixel art games. Which brings me to today's game, Hyperwired. It's a bullet hell roguelike game with a hint of old arcade games, if I may say so. It's the first ever game developed by Citral Games and got published by Selecta Play and Beep Japan. I want to thank them for giving me a Steam key for free to this game so I can review it. So, let's start with the gameplay. The gameplay is pretty simple. After you start around, you spawn into the level. In there you have your little spaceship, and attached to that is a plug. With that plug, you now need to connect to those stations which float around everywhere. While trying to do this, you get attacked by enemies like in every other game. To defend yourself, you've got a lot of different options. For one, your normal guns. A big laser with recoil, or bombs. Depending on what ship you select at the beginning, it might benefit one playstyle more than the other. Besides your own weapons, there are also little support ships you can help, which then fight for you. Or you can get upgrades from those stations to boost your arsenal for as long as you're plugged into them. This is also pretty important for a roguelike game, because who wants to play the exact same game the exact same way over and over again? That question also brings me right to my main downside of this game. The goal. Every time you finish a level and get thrown into the next one, there is always the same goal. Connect to all 4 stations and leave. This is a fun mechanic, nothing to argue there, but when you think about playing this game for 2 hours on end and always doing the exact same thing, it starts to feel a little bit boring. Anyway, after you manage to get through the first few levels, at some point you will encounter a boss. There are a total of 4 different bosses I found so far, and they all have their own unique gimmick. Nothing a seasoned player hasn't encountered before in other games, but not everyone has to reinvent the wheel. The bosses are easy to grasp, and I wasn't confused about how to beat them at any point, which is something not every developer gets right without telling the player straight up. But even though the concept is easy to grasp, that doesn't mean the bosses are pushovers. They clearly follow set patterns, but they deal damage. And without any station nearby, you might even run out of ammunition at some point. I definitely know that more than once I had to run into enemies because I had nothing to deal damage with, which is also the main struggle and most unique feature of this game, and I love it. You don't just have to take care of your health, but also keep an eye on your ammo and energy, because without energy you cannot move. Well, at least not by normal means. I like that you're not automatically game over the moment you run out of energy, but instead drift through the level in hopes of finding a recharge port before the enemy finds you. This constant search for a charge port gives the game a sense of urgency, which results in a playthrough being pretty fast. Besides the normal mode, you can also complete some challenges which restrict different parts of the game. An easy but effective way to increase the playtime. I love challenges in games where you refuse to use a main ability of the game just for the sake of making it harder. These challenges are fun without it feeling like there is no difference between them and the vanilla game mode. And if you still want more out of this game, you have the chance to collect different ships and complete their quests to gain special skins. I even collected one of these before even starting my first round. All in all, the gameplay is easy to grasp, but open enough that everyone will find a suitable playstyle for themselves. This game heavily encourages you to use the controller, but controllers are not for me at all. So I mostly stuck to keyboard and mouse. The controls don't have anything special to them, and the preset controls are placed how most people would use them anyway. Sadly, you also don't really have a choice, as there is no way to set the keybinds in the game itself. I always appreciate games that let the player customize the buttons themselves, but nowadays most people can work around it with their mouse's local software anyway. The tutorial explains all controls through a simple picture with a small testing area, which is a very nice touch to get a feel for things like the speed of the ship and the recoil of the laser. So that's a big plus in my book. After all the begging the game did, I decided to give the controller a go. What can I say? My gaming skills dropped to those of a toddler. This mainly came down to the fact that you, the player, have a slower aim with a thumbstick instead of a keyboard and mouse. Don't get me wrong, I still had a blast with the game even on the controller. And you can feel just from the menu alone that this game was intended to be played on a controller or maybe even a handheld console. As you might have noticed at that point, the game is made in a retro aesthetic, like most other indie roguelike games. Pixelated graphics walk a fine line between Is that a spot on my screen or something in the game? And for the most part, Hyperwired really managed to create designs different enough to show me exactly what type of enemy is in front of me. I said for the most part, because in the bestiary they look different, but in the heat of battle it's not that easy to identify what you have on the screen right now. Then again, in the end, it doesn't matter as long as they die after you shot them, right? The music in the game is pretty chill. It really works as a gentle undertone below all the different sound effects for whatever is happening in the game. Every weapon, every action has their own little sound cue, which for many is subconscious but always helps to tell the player that what you pressed on your gamepad got registered in the game. I initially wanted to talk about which systems could run this game without any problems, but Hyperwired can probably run on your toaster. The maximum FPS is capped by the game itself, as it doesn't exceed 60 FPS while I was playing. This is smart in terms of performance, as most people would never notice the difference anyway, and it keeps the hardware requirements really low. Speaking of which, on their Steam page they say that you need a minimum of 2 GHz for your processor, 2 gigs of RAM and 500 MB of VRAM. On my mid-tier PC I got the following stats. When we compare the 3 earlier mentioned requirements to my own, you can see that my numbers are slightly higher. This can be caused by a multiple of factors, like recording with OBS, or simply the fact that my PC can allocate more resources to the game to keep the overall performance steady. I also looked up the specs for a Steam Deck, and unsurprisingly, it should be totally capable of running this game smoothly. I already gave you glimpses into what I think of Hyperwired throughout the entire video so far. The game is fun if you're looking for a few short rounds on your break or while you're riding a train. I find it hard to go past 2 hours in one sitting, but that might also just come down to my short attention span. The amount of different options you can play this game is really great. The fighting never made me feel bored or restricted, thanks to all the different tools you get. As for replayability, you get loads of content. The different kinds of ships, their challenges you can complete, the challenge mode itself, and the upgrades you get in between every level, so it's always a bit different. The only complaint I have here is the earlier mentioned monotony of the goal always staying the same. Now we get to the question most of you watch this video for. Would I recommend this game to you? If you like roguelike games or need a quick game on the side, it's surely worth your consideration. I know that I will keep it installed on my PC, as it takes away next to no storage space with less than 200 megabytes and can be run while my PC works on something else in the background. It might be beneficial if you have a Steam Deck or a Nintendo Switch to have it on a handheld console. The game is on Nintendo Switch? Yes. It was released on the 2nd of June on all major platforms. Steam, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X. Last I checked, you can get it on most platforms for around €8 or less. And if you have as much fun with it as I had, you'd easily get your money's worth in playtime. And this concludes my review of Hyperwired. Once again, thanks to Select a Play for gifting me a game key. If you want to play this game yourself, I put a link to the Steam page below in the description, or just search for Hyperwired on your console's game store.